Georgia 44, Tennessee 41. Gary, I'm sitting here very similar to when we recapped Baylor beating SMU last week. I just don't know how Tennessee found a way to choke that away. For the majority of the game, I was prepared to sit here and tell you that they were the better team. I'm not so sure that they're not, but boy, the Vols have a hard time breaking the streak. It's now 9 games in a row that the Bulldogs have pulled off over the Volunteers. It took a miracle back in 2016 between the hedges for Tennessee to even get on the board. And here we are again, a missed field goal away from cementing it in regulation. Instead, we go to overtime and the Bulldogs pull it out 44-41. Georgia just continues to find ways to win. And, until Tennessee can beat down that door, I don't know that anything's going to change.
No, I'm totally with you. The hard thing for Tennessee is, again, it's like DNA. We were talking about it with, A&M not being able to win that big game, and then they finally did against Notre Dame. It's kind of the same thing for Tennessee. Like, they've had some big wins. Obviously, the Bama win from a couple years ago was huge, but it's just a consistency thing, right? It's just about being able to beat those top teams to prove that you're the big boy at the table, right?
Yep.
If you're going to go and take Georgia's spot, they're not going to give it up. You got to go take it, right? So, for me, looking at this game, I thought Tennessee looked like the better team for most of the game. I mean, I was crazy impressed with Aguilar. I mean, obviously, Nico sucks, and we're completely over that. They've come out the massive winner on that side of that deal. So, we can talk about that maybe later in the show. But, yeah, Joey Aguilar put on a show, made some mistakes, threw the 2 interceptions, but put on a show, did a lot of really good things, and especially to shoot out of a cannon. I mean, I thought the way that Tennessee came out of this thing, I was like, wow, there is no chance Georgia keeps up. They are white hot. And then Georgia just kind of hung around, right? They just kind of found a way to sort of stay in the game and slow it down. And there was a little bit of a lull period in the middle of that game where there wasn't as much scoring, and it was kind of a ball control, find your way across. And give him as much credit as you want to. Gunnar Stockton, he held his own, man. I was really impressed with his ability to find a way to make the play when they needed it, right?
Yep.
Running it on that first drive, scoring, and you think about throughout that game, just his ability to find a way to make the play. It wasn't ever, perfect. Again, there's probably some things that if you're a Georgia fan, you want to clean up, and some things on that defense you'd like to clean up as well. But like we said with A&M, you'd much rather clean those things up after a win than after a loss. And honestly, Georgia probably should be thanking their lucky stars that kicker missed the field goal too. At a certain point, college kickers are college kickers, and if you can be cold as ice, great. And if you can't, you can't. It shows up big when you're Georgia Tech's kicker, right? When you're Georgia Tech's kicker and you nail that kick at the end of the game, you reap the benefits and everyone calls you a hero. And when you are Tennessee's kicker and you miss a field goal that probably you should have made. Now, they could have made it easier on them, could have scooted it up a little bit, but when you miss that field goal, then, you take that game out of your own hands to win, and now it's on, to their back to their offense, back to their defense to try to find a way to win in overtime. You're not going to win too much of that against Georgia. They just got that different DNA about them when it comes to overtime.
Yeah, boy, the false start right before the game-winning field goal attempt.
Brutal.
That kick was so wide right. I don't know that it matters, but maybe even for the psyche of that kicker who
never had a chance.
Had big deer in the headlights look. I mean, gosh, he was.
I mean, when that ball hit its apex, I was like, oh, wow, never had a chance. Like, said that out loud.
Yeah, no, wrong zip code for sure. It was not the best effort. But to your point, 21-7 was the score at the end of the first quarter. I mean, Tennessee jumps on Georgia. The scripted plays worked to perfection. They marched down the field. Georgia never had a prayer to stop Tennessee from getting into the end zone. Georgia answers, and it's 7-7. And all Tennessee does then is reel off 14 points before the end of the first quarter, where they just looked like the Death Star. It was completely operational. Joey Aguilar goes 24-36, 371 yards, 4 touchdowns. You mentioned 2 interceptions. One of them wasn't his fault. His guy fell down, and it, in the broadcast looked like he threw it right to the safety. In actuality,
right.
His wide receiver lost a wheel. But
if he stays up, it's a completion.
Yeah, I thought Aguilar did everything that he did, or needed to do, I should say. You look at the running game, it was good enough, certainly to get the job done. 125 yards. Star Thomas had a couple of big runs, 9 carries for 60 yards. Deshaun Bishop, 54 yards on the ground as well. And so you look at the Tennessee box score, Chris Brazel, 6 catches for 177 yards and 3 touchdowns. Staley, 9 for 97 and a touchdown. And you just go, okay, so they won this game, right? But Georgia shuts them out in the second half. The defense stands firm. The secondary figures it out. They score 10 points. Tennessee doesn't. 21-17 going into the break. And then every other period, Georgia just finds a way to get the scoring edge. 10-7 in the third quarter, scoring wise. 11-10 in the fourth quarter, force overtime. And then obviously 6-3, they get the walk-off touchdown there at the very end. Like, that is what Georgia has done so well over these last several years. And that's what I give Kirby Smart credit for, is his team never mentally checks out. You think back to that Alabama game from last year where Alabama was all over Georgia early. It felt like the Tide was going to steamroll their way out. And that Kirby was going to get embarrassed on the road. And what on earth is this Georgia team going to do the rest of the year? And they find a way to come back. Now, obviously, they lost the game, but they found a way to claw their way back into it. And that's what this Georgia team does, that truly, until the nail is in the coffin, I don't think you can count them out. You also mentioned Gunnar Stockton doing a good job. The first 2 weeks, he did not look good. The offense in general did not look like they had any clue of how to operate at an SEC level, a level that was going to give them the ability to come into Neyland, that was absolutely rocking today, and find a way to score 40 plus in a winning effort. Stockton, after kind of struggling against Austin Peay and Marshall, goes 23 of 31, 304, and 2 touchdowns. A very lights out performance, I thought, from Gunnar Stockton. The running game breaks through 198 yards on the ground. This is the Georgia team that maybe they don't look like a Saban Alabama. We're going to crush your will from the word go, and there's no room for you to breathe. But this is the Georgia team that I kind of warned everybody about. Just when you start to count them out, they're not only going to find a way to win, but they're going to get on a roll. And suddenly we're getting to the end of the year and they're SEC champions and national champions as well.
Well, and that's why I picked them to win this game, was because I just kind of believe in Georgia, right?
Yeah.
That's not a shocking statement, right? I'm not saying anything revolutionary. That's not Mr. Hot Takes over here, right? But obviously, at a certain point, you just believe in Georgia for the same reason we used to believe in Bama. It's because you just have a great head coach who, despite some off the field stuff, does have a good culture when it comes to game day. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they're going to find ways to win. They know how to win football games. They know how to dig deep. They know the right things to say at the right time when the guys are down and you got to go give a message to the team on the sidelines. They know what to do. They know that they're in it. They know that they have the dogs to get it done. And I mean, again, like you said, 198 yards rushing, that ain't an accident. That's a full team commitment to running the football, being effective, doing what you got to do. There are a bunch of ball carriers in this one. There are a whole bunch of guys. It was mostly 3 guys, but there's a whole bunch of guys carrying the rock in this one. That's a team commitment to running the football, blocking your tails off, and getting it done. It's a tough Georgia team. Now, again, if you're a Georgia fan, you're going to hear me say that they're tough and they're gritty and all that stuff. And you're going to say, did you watch that defense? And you're going to be pulling your hair out talking about how bad that defense is. Look, I'm not entirely convinced we didn't watch 2 of the best teams in college football play a game today. I think
Sure.
that probably there's a good chance that both of these teams make the playoff. I've been withholding my judgment on Tennessee. I think they probably make the playoff if I had to rewrite it today. They're a very good football team. They got an incredible offense. And just because Georgia came out on top of this one with a bunch of points being scored doesn't mean anything necessarily about Georgia's defense, doesn't mean anything necessarily about Georgia's ability to be physical. I think it says a lot more about Tennessee's ability to score points. And so, look, it's not anything that you want to hear, right? If you're a Georgia fan, you want to go see them give up 10 for the next 3 weeks, right? You don't want to see any more points getting scored. You're like, let's shut that down. I don't want to see any more of that. But again, like, take it with a grain of salt. You probably played one of the best teams in their house, and I think you should be proud you walk out with a win. But that's what Georgia does. Like, that's what I said. Like, that's why I trust them. This is what Georgia does. They walk in your house, they poke you right in your eye hole, and they get the win.
Yeah, Tennessee should get back on the winning way next week against UAB. Then they go to Mississippi State, which suddenly not a gimme, and should be an interesting game at the end of September before they get to a bye week. For Georgia, their next 2 weeks, actually they're off next week, and then they get a week to prepare for the Crimson Tide, and that will be between the hedges in Sanford Stadium. Absolute must-watch TV. It's going to be fantastic to see Alabama bounce back, look very physical against Wisconsin today. That's a team that, oh my goodness, has lost all identity. I think that's a team that needs a leadership change. But we're talking about maybe the perfect way to end September when we get the Dogs and the Tide in the SEC.